Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Gareth from Park Cameras, and today we are going to be checking out this. It's the Sigma 85mm f1.4 art lens for Sony E Mount cameras. And I've been checking out with the A7R IV as well as the A7 III. Now there's two Sigma lenses we've been checking out. This video will be all about the 85mm. We've also been having a look at the 105mm f2.8 macro lens. That video should be on our channel as well, so you can go and check that out for yourself. But in this video, we will be talking about the image quality, the design, what this is like to actually shoot with, the feel of it, you know, how it sits on the camera. You can see it here's an art lens as well in Sigma's lineup, so you can probably guess that means it's gonna be pretty tasty, but we're gonna talk about bokeh, sharpness, all that kind of stuff. And let's actually start off with that. Let's talk about the image quality with this lens. Now, of course, as you'd expect from a Sigma art lens, it's nice and sharp. It works really well with the Sony cameras. Like I say, I've used the A7R IV, I've used the A7 III, and it works really, really nicely. 85mm, of course, perfect for portraits. That's my favorite portrait focal length to use. F1.4, that's gonna give you some beautiful bokeh, some beautiful out of focus elements in the background. Oh, and it looks so good. Now, of course, like I say, sharp, nice and sharp, works perfectly with the Sony E Autofocus, which at this point is just ridiculously good. So that is great for portraits in particular, but you can use this for landscape. You can use that for all kinds of things. There's loads of different stuff that you can use this kind of lens for. That 85mm focal length, I love that for landscapes because it gives you a slightly different perspective. You know, a slightly longer focal length, so you can really focus in on one aspect of the actual landscape. Now, one thing I love with an 85mm for landscapes is shooting down a path, you know, or a road. Something where it just goes off into the distance, you've got the leading lines, but if you shoot with a slightly more open aperture, maybe f1.4, maybe you stop down a tiny bit because that is really wide open, but maybe f1.4, you get nice out of focus elements in the foreground, running down to that focal point in the distance. Whew. And that is absolutely something you can do with this lens as well. Let's focus on that bokeh for just a second, no pun intended, because it does look so good. Of course, you would expect that to be the case. F1.4, that's gonna give you a really nice shallow depth of field, but it just looks great. It's just a very, very pleasing bokeh. It's not kind of full of artifacts. It doesn't kind of look busy and weird and give you those horrible swirly kind of weird bits. None of that, none of that. Looks great, beautiful. Especially, I've got to say, especially right now with the autumn light and those oranges and the reds and yellows in the background. Oh, that is really pretty. So the bokeh on this lens, you can expect to have very, very pleasing out of focus elements, foreground, background, anything like that. Of course, as I mentioned, it works really well with the autofocus in the Sony cameras. So of course that eye autofocus for portraits is unbeatable, really, when it comes down to it. And certainly with this lens, it's very quick. I had no issues with hunting. It just snapped on, perfect. So what's it like to actually shoot with? Well, you can see here, it's not crazy big at all. It actually is a pretty kind of decent weight and size. It pairs pretty well. This is the A7R IV here. Pairs really well with this camera, sits nicely on the front. Same with the A7 III. It's not a light lens at all. So this whole kind of setup here is a little bit, you know, on the weightier side, but you'd expect that from especially an f1.4 lens. But it does sit nicely on the front. It's big enough that you've got a nice kind of grip there. And actually, the manual focus wheel, if you do like to use that, is nicely weighted and it's pretty wide as well. So you're gonna be able to use that nicely. Although of course on a Sony camera, I've mentioned it a few times now, but that eye autofocus. The controls on the lens itself are nice and easy to use. There's actually a few controls on here. First of all, you've got an aperture ring, which goes from f1.4 to f16, and there's a nice little switch there, so you can go on to auto aperture if you want to and lock that in position, so you're not gonna accidentally change that later on. You've got a few other controls there, obviously the autofocus manual focus control. You've got the click for the aperture ring. You can de-click it or have the click on. Personally, for photography, I'd go for click because I always think that's better. And then you can obviously de-click it if you want to use this for video. And then you've got a button for AF lock as well. It does of course come with a lens hood as well, which just sits on the front of the lens there. Actually, to be honest, you know, while lens hoods are not the most exciting thing in the world, it's pretty decent. It is made from plastic, I think, but it's certainly not flimsy. You know, it feels feels decent actually in the hands and to hold. Ultimately, this obviously makes it for a fantastic portrait option. Wedding photographers are gonna get a lot of good use out of this, especially when you pair it, like I say, with a Sony camera with the eye autofocus. It's just so easy to use for events and things like that. It's a decent size and weight without being too heavy. Sure, maybe it could be a little bit lighter, but then I don't know at what point can it be, you know? F1.4, I just don't know at what point is that a reasonable request. I actually don't know that I even want it really any lighter because it's not super heavy. So I think it fits really well on the front of these cameras. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I just had a very, very nice time using this lens. You know, a bit of landscape, a bit of portrait. It's just a very, very nice lens to use, as you would probably expect from the Sigma art lenses now. They're just so, so good. Now, of course, there's full links in the description so you can go and check out the lens for yourself, price, spec, all of that kind of stuff. If you have any questions about the lens at all, pop it down in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you ASAP. I have had a bit of time with this lens, so I'm hoping I'd be able to answer any questions that you'd have, so absolutely pop them down there. Pop any thoughts as well down there as well, because I love to hear all of your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. We've got new stuff all the time, reviews, tutorials, all kinds of stuff. I will, of course, see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.